The third step is building a vision and developing a business case. I put this quote here. I once had a professor who said this, that if you don't know where you're going, any road can take you there. And it makes sense. Just imagine a simple example of going on summer vacation. If you pack up the car and just point it north or south or whichever direction, and you end up at the beach, then you discover that you're disappointed that you've arrived at the beach and you haven't arrived in the mountains. If you had set a quick vision before you left, for example, maybe this summer your intention is to overcome your fear of mountain biking. Well, then you may have pointed your car in the opposite direction, put a bike on the back of it, and headed up to take on that vision. Now, when I say the word vision, I think some people bristle a little bit. Setting a vision doesn't require hours of deliberation, and it doesn't require developing some kind of super tight statement that is wordsmithed by a room full of consultants in the middle of the night. It could just simply mean imagining yourself at some point in the future and answering a handful of questions about what that future world looks like or feels like. Here are some questions that we've started with to help guide people in developing their own vision statements. So again, imagine yourself at 3 years in the future, for example, or 2 years, or whatever your timeline is. What capabilities are people using? What business processes are being enabled? What's it like for people to use SharePoint? And if you're looking back, were there interim milestones that let you know that you were making progress along the way? And then we use this type of question and answer panel to just establish that this is the vision. You don't have to take this now and painstakingly summarize it and make sure that you've got really well crafted, 2 or 3 sentences that you put on posters around the wall. This in and of itself should serve as enough clarity for people who are trying to understand what are we trying to achieve. The next step involves developing the business case, and a business case generally has 3 parts. What can increase revenue? What can reduce costs? And what are the qualitative or strategic benefits? And depending on how you plan to use SharePoint, any or all of these may be relevant. I do want to make 2 points about the business case development. One is, be really cautious in using any argument that relies on a minutes saved per day calculation to develop cost savings. So if you were to say, I'm going to have 20,000 people save 2 minutes per day, and therefore that translates into X dollars because of the fully loaded costs. These arguments don't tend to be credible with executives unless they result in substantial enough time savings that people actually wholesale turn their attention to some other activity, or unless they result in a real headcount reduction. The other caution I would give is, don't perform mental gymnastics to calculate a positive return on investment if there isn't one, because sometimes there isn't one. I was on a project once that justified a significant investment simply on the virtue of it being an operating necessity. And so imagine all the time and effort that we avoided, as well as the lack of credibility of a business case that we had really manufactured to try to justify something when at its heart we knew it was simply operating necessity. So that's something that if it stands on its own merits, it could go forward.